This is Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. So Donald Trump, with 2 hours to spare from a court deadline set by the federal district judge in the Southern District of Florida, Aileen Cannon, Trump filed his supplemental motion to a prior motion that he filed on Monday, which was styled as a motion for judicial oversight and additional relief, which we discussed on the MeidasTouch Network really isn't a real motion. And so let me just rewind for a little bit before telling you about what Donald Trump filed with 2 hours to spare before his midnight deadline set by the federal judge. So we've always been talking about the search warrant that was executed on Mar-a-Lago on August 8th. A magistrate judge, Judge Reinhart, is overseeing those proceedings, and today, portions were unsealed. That was part of Judge Reinhart's unsealing order. And from August 8th into the present, Donald Trump and his lawyers, while whining about on his failing social media platform everything that's taking place in that proceeding, didn't do the bare minimum work, which was to literally file any pleading whatsoever in that case. The interveners who are referenced in that Judge Reinhart case, who were even asking the affidavit to be unsealed, was actually the media. Trump, while he's whined and said, unseal the affidavit, filed no documents in that court before Judge Reinhart asking that those documents be unsealed. And so instead, Donald Trump filed this past week, 2 weeks later, on August 22nd, in a new court case before a different judge, federal judge Aileen Cannon. Aileen Cannon is a Article 3 federal judge, whereas Judge Reinhart is a magistrate judge. Magistrate judges are appointed by federal judges. Federal judges are appointed and confirmed. They're appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate in a confirmation process. And the federal judges appoint magistrates, but magistrates are the ones who sign search warrants. And so we could do a deeper dive into that in a later video, but rather than doing anything in the magistrate case where the search warrant was validly and lawfully executed, Trump filed this motion, right? And this motion for judicial oversight, it was asking for a special master. It was asking for the government to stop looking at the documents. I mean, 2 weeks after the search had taken place, and the government likely had reviewed all of the records. And the government already had its own filter team in place to review privileged documents, but asked them to stop, but didn't actually file a motion for an injunction. And then the motion just called for kind of other miscellaneous relief, which was basically Donald Trump just whining. So that happened on Monday of this week. Then on Tuesday of this week, Judge Aileen Cannon, in response to that motion, basically filed a paperless order saying to Donald Trump, I really don't know what it is you filed. File a supplemental motion by Friday, and let me know, are you asking for an injunction? What is the jurisdiction that I even have to hear this versus Judge Reinhart, who's already the judge in the other case? How would any relief that I would give impact Judge Reinhart? And have you even served the government? Like, the first thing you have to do when you file a case, right, is you have to serve the side with the summons of the complaint and let them know, hey, a lawsuit's been filed, because in the real court system, it's not like you can just whine about it on social media. So finally, with 2 hours to go on the East Coast, Donald Trump's lawyers filed their supplemental motion for judicial oversight and additional relief. And rather than start with the beginning, I have to take you to the end of this motion because it just shows you how embarrassing it is. So Trump has not even served the government before. So instead of serving the government through the formal process, because courts have formal processes. If you look at the last paragraph where Trump's lawyers talk about the procedures that have been taken for service of process, on August 22nd, when the complaint or whatever the heck Donald Trump filed, they simply sent an email to Jay Bratt, the chief of the counterintelligence and export control section of the DOJ. Here you go, buddy. Here's a court document. Like, that's not valid service. That's not effective service at all. And then No conversations until August 25th, 2022, where finally Trump's lawyers, this is what it says, counsel for Movement's Trump, spoke with Mr. Bratt on August 25th, 2022, and inquired as to the government's position of acceptance of service. Okay, why wouldn't you call him on the day? If you're going to do a stupid email, why don't you make a phone call to him that day? So you wait until August 25th to inquire, and then Bratt says, that's not what I do. I'm not the service guy, okay? I'm the top counterintelligence official. I'm not just a random person. Go follow the rules and do it yourself. So if you look at the end of the paragraph, the lawyers go, Movement, which is Trump, will promptly serve it and a copy of the pleadings on the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, and will promptly file proof of service thereafter. So they admit in the last paragraph they didn't even serve the complaint whatsoever. So the government technically isn't even on notice of this because Trump's lawyers don't even know how to serve a complaint correctly and just sent a random email. Okay, then you go into the actual motion itself, and when you read whatever their supplemental motion is, they basically say the fact that there were all of these redactions that were in the affidavit, which was released today in Judge Reinhart's proceeding, that is the reason why judicial relief in this case is necessary. And they basically claim what's really needed here is equitable relief, and that's the judge's authority, that the judge has equitable powers. And to make this claim, they cite, of all cases, the Rudy Giuliani search warrant case. And in that case, the government asked for a special master. It wasn't Rudy Giuliani who had asked for a special master. In fact, in the search warrant case of Rudy Giuliani in 2021 before Judge Otkin, Rudy Giuliani demanded all of the documents, and Rudy Giuliani asked to see a copy of the affidavit. And there, Judge Otkin denied Rudy Giuliani the ability to even see the affidavit. By the way, Judge Reinhart allowed portions to be unsealed today. Rudy Giuliani didn't even get to see any portions of the affidavit. And upon the government's request, not Giuliani's request, although Giuliani didn't object to the search warrant, the judge there said, sure, you can have a special master. But in that case, it involved a unique set of circumstances where Giuliani was serving as a lawyer, so the issues were issues of attorney-client privilege. Here, with respect to Trump, he didn't even cite in his motion anywhere anything about attorney-client privilege. They use the word privilege occasionally, but what privilege is he even referring to where you would ever even need a special master? Is it executive privilege? Because executive privilege doesn't lie with former presidents. Executive privilege is held by the current president, President Biden, and President Biden says there's no executive privilege over these documents. Trump doesn't argue there's attorney-client privilege. In fact, Trump doesn't really argue anything in this motion because, yet again, there is no declarations attached to this motion. There's no affidavits attached to the motion. The motion just basically like a version of this. Yo, what's up, Judge? Hey, Judge, you think you can get me an injunction? You think you can appoint for me a special master? There's no declaration that sets forth facts. There's no information with details provided by Trump. We don't see any declarations under penalty of perjury by Trump, right? Instead, we have Donald Trump throwing his lawyers under the bus who they have to sign their names to these pleadings. And there's nowhere here in this declaration where Donald Trump says definitively anywhere, hey, there isn't top secret compartmented information. I have no clue why I'm being searched. There's nothing to see here at all. He doesn't even argue that. If that was your main point, that is what you're going to argue. And in Rudy Giuliani's case, the court basically said, Rudy Giuliani, you don't get to see the affidavit. So to cite Rudy Giuliani's case and then say, because Trump hasn't seen the unredacted or hasn't seen the redacted portions of the deposition, that's why he should get relief here. It's the exact opposite. The Rudy Giuliani case stands for essentially the opposite proposition that Trump is citing. And Trump doesn't really provide any grounds why Judge Reinhart is not capable of making these decisions on his own. I mean, he says that magistrate judges are unable to hear injunctions, and injunctions have to go before federal judges. But what this isn't an injunction. Like, to file an injunction, injunctions have to be accompanied by declarations and affidavits and demonstrations of irreparable harm that the affiant, that the declarant actually states under penalty of perjury, number one. And number two, of course, Judge Reinhart's capable of reviewing it. In fact, what we know from the unsealed affidavit before Judge Reinhart is that the government set forth a very detailed filter team protocol that when people would go into Trump's office or the Pine Room, or where all of these confidential documents were apparently scattered throughout the floor, this filter team by the DOJ would go in first. They would review the documents for privilege. And then after they reviewed it for privilege, the non-privileged documents would go to those DOJ officers and officials and FBI officials who were handling the criminal investigation. And Judge Reinhart signed off on that. And Trump's been silent in that case. Even to this very day, this will be the third week Trump's remained silent in this Judge Reinhart, in the Judge Reinhart case. So again, this relief is just a bunch of whining on a legal paper. Frankly, the fact that the federal judge, Judge Eileen Cannon, even allowed Trump to file this and kind of guided him and kind of gave him the baby steps of even asking him these questions. I mean, most federal judges would have laughed you out of court. Now, the one variable here, which is we'll have to keep our eye on, is Judge Eileen Cannon is a Trump appointee. She was appointed by Trump in 2020. She's been a member of the Federalist Society since 2005. But even then, judges need to have dignity and respect amongst the other judicial officers within the community. And if she were to grant any of this relief from his complaining and whining, I mean, she'd totally lose, all credibility whatsoever. And so, that's basically the roundup of what Trump just filed. Again, a mishmash of whining, complaining, not understanding the law, and filing it with 2 hours to spare. So this has been Mycelis with the MeidasTouch Network. Hope that update was helpful. Make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. Please hit the subscribe button right now and support independent media. Thank you so much.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.